Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, this is working. Thank you very much to my panelists, and thank you for joining this conversation. Once again, this is a country spotlight, Romania's energy transition process, and its evolution, if you want, its mission in achieving the targets for 2030 and beyond. To frame the conversation, I think we can all agree that energy security concerns have been more salient over the past few years, given the struggles that the European Union countries and member states have put in order to ensure their security of supply, but at the same time to transition towards cleaner technologies, so to decarbonize the economies. The question now becomes whether energy security on one side and its new definition and decarbonization are on the same path, and I think Romania, given its context and balanced energy mix on the short run, but also the vast resources, I think Romania has responded very well to the crisis, among the best in the European Union's bloc, and has potential and the right ingredients to spearhead the energy transition. But I would first like to start looking a bit backwards, as I said, over the past 2 years, what has happened and how Romania and Romanian energy sector has reacted to that. So, Elisa, if I can start with you, can you briefly tell us what happened over the last 2 years in the country? How did Romania manage to basically strategically ensure its security of supply? And at the same time, what have been the adaptation measures that have been taken by the country to transition this very difficult period?
Thank you. I think we've done a couple of simple things. Make available and best use of the current generation fleet that we have, ensure that we have a sufficient gas supply for the gas-fired power generation, and as well keep the infrastructure for imports and exports at a maximum level in order to balance ourselves in times where demand has not been met by the current supply. I think we are among the few, if not the only EU member state that still has a winter task force in terms of forecasting or approaching the winter situations. It seems that we will have to do this also for the summer. But in a sense, I think that the primary response is to make the best use of whatever we have had looking forward. I think in the past years, we were trying to incentivize more and more renewable power coming online, as well as I would say that there are at least two approaches to security supply in the future. Make the best use of the coupling between renewable and the storage solutions, but as well we cannot ignore the options of nuclear and gas-fired power generation, which at some point are the solution when renewables do not, let's say, pitch in at the maximum potential that the system needs.
Thank you very much. A lot of topics to unpack, and we'll be back to some of those in this panel. Mr. Borbély, if I can turn to you from a power generator's perspective, one of the most important in the regions. What were the challenges of previous years, and what are the challenges today, as Romania, like any other European member state, is trying to prioritize energy security in comparison with others?
Thank you very much. Very warm welcome in the Parliament office. I think that all the organizers, I would like to send all my thoughts to the organizers, because it's a strong commitment in this warm month. So Hidroelectrica, as you know, the biggest electricity producer in Romania. We are producing around 28-30% of the electricity based on water. The last 1 month, we had a lot of, let's say, challenges, because the consumption became around 8,500, 8,800 megawatts per hour, and this gives us a little bit of headache for all the Romanian energy sector. Also, all the new investments in renewables now, especially in solar, they started to show the effects of the production, but is not very well balanced with the consumption in this moment. But back to the basics. Romanian energy sector have a very strong potential. If you see the last months, all the big investments which was announced by the state-owned companies like Romgaz, Hidroelectrica, and other ones show us that Romania have a very strong role in the moment in the regional context, and also for the next years we want to remain a very strong country in the region from the production point of view. So for Hidroelectrica, very interesting times for us. As you know, last year we managed to be the biggest IPO at the Romanian Stock Exchange, and since then we started to do what we promised to the investors, to increase our investments, to increase our modernization, M&A, and retechnologization, let's say, projects. Yeah? We need a lot of investment in the next years, more than around 1.3 billion euro in the following 4 or 5 years, investments in modernization and retechnologization, because we need to remain the main electricity producer in Romania, and also all this production is based on water. That means 100% green energy, and in this way we will extend our the life cycle of our hydro equipments. We will continue the idea for the next.
Yeah, we will continue. We will expand a bit on that, on your future plans. This is important to understand, especially in the country's context. Mr. Popescu, I would turn to you now. In 2021, gas was the reason why the whole energy crisis started to grow, and the energy security concerns started to grow. And from your perspective as a major operator, I would like to understand what is your view on what happened over this 3 years, let's say, more or less 3 years. And at the same time, did this crisis lead to medium-term opportunities for the countries and obviously for your company?
Hi, hello, and thank you for the invitation and also for the question. Indeed, it was a tumultuous last 3 to 4 years, starting with the Russian aggression in Ukraine, when I think the entire paradigm of gas delivery and transportation changed in Europe. Of course, there were a lot of countries that tried to adapt really fast, especially countries that didn't have access to their own natural gas. Here, Romania was in a very privileged position in comparison to other countries, because having a majority state-owned company that produces the most gas in the region and could supply the end consumer and has given the stability, but this stability was also based on the OG-27 and then the OG-119 that protected the population, protected the thermal energy producers of the major cities in Romania. And although gas prices were fluctuating and the pressure was really high, both on prices and both on the security of supply, because here we are talking about the security of supply, I think we fared quite well. On the other hand, we don't have access to LNG terminals directly. We had the opportunity, and we still have the opportunity, of bringing in LNG to Romania to put this into the energy mix. But what Romgaz did from a company perspective was to raise production as quickly as possible. So we put into production all the wells that we had at that moment. We stepped up production. We stepped up the capital repairs on most of our wells, and it shows because even during the past years and even in the first trimester of this year, we had a hike in production of more than 4.5%.
Thank you, and I think this is important to put it in the full perspective. And I think these were the short-term, let's say, actions and adaptation actions that Romania and its operators took over the last 3 or 4 years. So maybe, Radu, though, I would turn to you to discuss a bit how did Romania plan its medium and long-term strategy in this period, and what is that plan looking like going forward?
Yeah, you can hear me. All right. So before turning to strategic energy planning per se, that is the current energy strategy, which is about to be approved, and certainly the National Energy and Climate Plan, I'd like to say a few things about what went well and rather what went wrong over the past 3 years in terms of energy security. With the Green Deal, this new major fund called the Modernization Fund was put up for a number of European member states with very substantial funding for the energy sector. But unfortunately, the Romanian government acted a bit slow on that, and as a representative of an independent think tank, I can gently articulate some criticism here. So it's been quite late when we got our act together and finally started submitting requests for funding with the Modernization Fund. Then came the COVID crisis with, again, an associated purse, the Recovery and Resilience Facility. And then again, there were some delays. And then the crisis caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, again, with added funds with the Repower EU. And every time we have seen a sort of attempt to sort out the priorities, what's really critical. And I would like to say just this. Some things should have been seen from earlier on, like the fact that a lot more money should have gone from the outstart towards the power grid, or that storage should have been prioritized. That was obvious, should have been obvious. Others were not foreseeable, such as the spectacular growth of prosumers. I mean, nobody could have known that in 1.5 years you would see a tenfold increase in prosumers with all the system perturbation that this has caused. So a lot had to be dealt with on the go, if you like. Now, I must say the current government, the current ministry in particular, has been particularly efficient at signing and readying for absorption a lot of EU funding that was kind of overdue. Other than that, there's the National Energy Strategy, which is a document about to be approved. I think it's more of a plan that sets goal and then attempts to create a coherence for the sector that's needed, and then to deliver a sense of predictability and longer-term view for the energy industry. Now, Romania is a country that has already committed to full decarbonization by 2050. We have an approved long-term decarbonization strategy. And then the real measures up to 2030 are in Mr. Elisei's garden. with the NECP, the National Energy and Climate Plan, because there's where the concrete targets are doubled by measures and then spending. So I think at this point we have the strategic clarity for 2030. The challenge will be for us to know how we can achieve the 2040 decarbonization target, which is at EU level also very ambitious, and also to catch up on some overdue measures again, some overdue power generation capacities, and especially energy storage.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a very good segue back to Sorin Elisei. We are looking forward, and we are talking about 2030 and beyond. Obviously, we are talking an increase in energy demand driven by electrification, driven by the need to use electricity for cooling, for instance, in places like this. How are you foreseeing the future through the strategic planning? What is if I may actually challenge you on this, how would you see a mix, a generation mix, not only from the supply side, but including the flexibility options that you would see in this overall picture? And how is that connecting with the grid needs, the investment in the grids and the upgrades needed over there? It's a full question, but I'm sure you have a good answer to it.
I would start from the NECP, and I would start also from the 2040 agenda, just by saying that I think a lot of us here expect predictability through the plan. The plan will finally, toward the end of this month, because we have the final numbers and we will be publishing it, the revised version. But I would like to be cautious against disruptions that happen in a sense of the measures that we need to take from a crisis to a different crisis. And I think that this pathway of crisis will continue to happen until we have a final wording on transition. So I think on paper we would be looking like we are ready. But it depends a lot on reality of what the actual implementation pace would look like, because we are facing issues related to equipment, to services, to workforce, and so on and so forth. So there is a conscious thinking behind the mix and the way that it addresses the solutions to a potentially increasing demand. That's for sure. We see it in transport. We see it in industry. We see it also in heating and cooling. If we are to talk about power grids, of course, there is a huge investment needed there. But I would say that end of 2025, we would be in a much better position to judge if we are going to reach 2030 targets, or should we be thinking about 2035 in a sense. And that's not a problem of commitment, but it's a question of actually what is on paper to become a reality. And in a sense, again, disruptions could be seen also from a technological perspective. Absolutely. Availability of resources, and how do we see this? We have the energy communities, for example. I would just finish with this, because there is a thinking about the big machines that were producing power a couple of decades ago, and now we are in a sort of a different paradigm with the decentralized generation and the needs that this type of production brings into the energy system planning. I would then just conclude with the fact that maybe if we have a second roundup of consultation after the final NECP revision, we would then see there the need for choices for Romania going forward in the energy sector, in a sense that we cannot take all the solutions, put it in a sort of a magic pot, and then expect results. there would be certain choices that we would need to make. There will be difficult choices, but that's the situation.
Thank you very much. And I think for major companies, utility scale companies like Hidroelectrica, for instance, you have only the choice of going forward and looking at the plans and meeting the plans through your investment and upgrades that you were talking about. Can you expand a bit on the plans that the company has in this regard, upgrading its assets, but at the same time responding to an increasing demand, energy demand in the economy, power demand?
Yeah, for sure. Romania is a country which are developing year by year, so we see that the consumption are a little bit. We see a lot of changes on the consumption side, especially because a lot of people became prosumers. This is a little bit changed the game, but on the overall picture, Hidroelectrica as a producer and as a supplier, we will continue to invest in our capacities, and also we are continuing to focus on our operational efficiency. 2 years ago, we started to be a player on the supply market. Now we have around 12-13% of the supply market, and still a lot of space to grow. Of course, we are in the last 2 years after COVID, due to the regulation. We have, let's say, a regulated market, but we are coming now to an end. We'll see, starting from next year, how the market will evaluate. Until then, we have to focus on our investment plans. We have to focus on developments. We are not focusing only on investments in our core business, but we also acquired a company named Ducem Reșița. Reșița was responsible to produce 90% of hydro generators which Hidroelectrica is using right now. So we are doing all our maintenance works with Ducem. We acquired this company, now we are investing in this company to increase the value and the production capacity, to be sure that in the next years our dependency to other suppliers will be very low. Also, we are focusing on M&A market to acquire a few PV and storage capacities. We are looking very closely to see the strong opportunity to develop the company in this area as well. We still have some big investments started before 1990, they were not finished. There are some hydroelectric plants, which are already, let's say, in different phases, around 70-80% already, but due to the fact that some NGOs suspend our construction permit, we started to get the authorization again. Of course, the environmental permit issues are also very difficult to get. So I don't see new hydro investment from scratch because it's extremely difficult to do. But we are expecting to finalize these works in the next 2-3 years. One is Stolița, which is very close to the end. Hopefully before the end of this year or latest and beginning of next year. Also, the Bombély investment, they are also very close to the end. We have around 250-300 megawatts in different phases of execution. We are looking forward to finalize these works and also to increase our capacities due to refurbishment and modernization works. So a new energy strategy is coming. Thanks for the Ministry of Energy's effort, because the last years we lost some time because it's a very important document for all the industry. And as a listed company, we'll remain extremely connected with the new technologies, with the new developments, new investments to bring value for the shareholders and also for the Romanian state as a shareholder in our company.
Maybe a quick follow-up, the same question. Do you see grids as being one of the bottlenecks of for the next years going forward, increasing supply capacity? Do you see grids as big an issue or not that much given the plans that you've mentioned?
In the last 3-4 years, distribution companies started investment projects. I see that on the agenda of the regulatory authority, there's a very strong focus on delivering the targets and to push everybody to make these investments. The market is growing. The needs of the consumers are increasing year by year, and that means that distributors they should increase their investments, because otherwise the network will not work. It's the same situation we had 20 years ago in the mobile networks. Yeah? So everybody invested in the networks, and after that, better quality, better prices came immediately.
Thank you. Mr. Popescu, going back to you, so natural gas is one of the reasons, one of the ingredients that Romania has going forward in exporting and being a supplier of energy security and energy resilience in the region. And I would like to understand your view on that, but also understanding how important infrastructure is. We were talking about grids, but pipelines are equally important when it comes to this option that Romania has and the support that it could give to neighboring countries and to the European Union as a whole. What is your view on that, and how do we stand there? How is the region at the moment in that sense?
Well, I think before discussing pipeline and discussing grids, we have to start from the production side, because if you don't have production, then all the others, I think, are totally unnecessary. So here comes into play the Neptune Deep project, which Romgaz has entered more than 2 years ago. Right now, the project is ongoing with our target to have first gas in early 2027. And Neptune Deep is a transformational project, both for Romgaz as a company, but also for the entire Romanian state, because of the extra capacity and production of gas it will bring to the market, not only securing our internal consumption and giving Romania an extra edge regarding any type of gas consumption or any type of chemical plant that could be built in Romania, but also giving this security to our neighbors, because as we see, Transgaz is building the Tuzla-Podișor pipeline. We have the interconnections with Moldova, we have the interconnections with Bulgaria and Hungary, which are working right now. So these are the prerequisites of bringing this gas. Also, we're seeing our grids develop, our natural gas consumption to the local household, which has extended, which is extremely important. So I think this prerequisite has to come from the production side, mostly because Neptune Deep will bring this security to Romania and to the region. That's why Romgaz has its biggest investment plan that it has ever had. Up to 2027, we are talking above 2 billion euros investment. We also have in the final stages of construction the long-awaited Iernut power plant, which is encounters so many mishaps and headaches along the way. We are confident that the first megawatt of energy will be sent to the system in such important node of the country, right inside the Carpatic Arch, and also the fact that the Iernut power plant is very good for the balancing market. That will help Romania exactly what we're seeing today, and that this balances it will bring a bit more let's say stability to the entire Romanian grid.
Thank you very much. Radu, we are talking about obviously the critical role of conventional energy suppliers and players, but at the same time we do have rather new technologies and options across the value chain. So we are talking about, let's say, new types of producing energy, be it offshore, be it other solutions in that regard. We are talking more and more about the need for storage, for flexibility options. We are talking about energy communities and different ways of consuming energy. And to link everything together, we should also be discussing about digitalization as a whole, as a concept of bringing everything together. How do you see everything unfolding, and at the same time, how do you see the mix of conventional and very relevant, let's say, technologies together with this new generation of tools that we have across the value chain, once again, not only on the supply side?
You're totally right that some new directions, which maybe in other places aren't so new anymore, such as digitalization of the energy sector, has been mentioned around for a while now, but with little action or even recognition. Now, both the energy strategy and the NECP, the National Energy and Climate Plan, recognize the importance of digitalization in energy. And indeed, Romania is a country with a vibrant IT sector that is ready to make a substantial contribution to digitalization in the energy sector. So this is a critical direction where I see plenty of room for growth and optimization and efficiency. Other than that, other technologies that are critical, for instance, for other industry in the Romanian economy, such as the carbon-intensive industries, carbon capture and storage. There is an extra reason I'm mentioning CCS. It's not just because, for instance, the cement industry or also the steel industry are dependent on such technologies for their own decarbonization, but because the main players of the energy sector for most of its history, namely the oil and gas companies, would thus have a very substantive way of becoming pillars of the transition. So I wouldn't expect the national oil and gas company to just diversify their portfolios by incorporating PV and wind parks, but also to use their core business in developing technologies. And CCS is definitely one. Another is geothermal, deep geothermal, which critically depends on the ability of such companies to drill and to build this single loop technologies that are so much invested in the US. So I think Romania could be a trailblazer in showing that companies that developed in the past and built the energy sector for decades and even more than 100 years can keep up and then contribute with their core knowledge and skills to this new technologies. And then just to finish up on this question, we also have to think not about just the technologies of the 2030s, but also of the 2040s. We have to realize that, for instance, energy storage is not just a choice between batteries or else pumped storage, which has a 10-year lead time, but that other technologies are developing as we speak, very promising, such as thermal storage with very high efficiencies. And again, the US is the place where we're seeing most of the research and development on that. And then, as has been mentioned in the previous panel, the next generation of nuclear reactors, smaller, advanced anyway. So Romania has this distinguished track record of, let's say, technological openness This is a strong point, and we should capitalize on that further on.
If I can follow up on that, and maybe I can start the last set of questions with you again, Radu. From an investor's perspective, looking at the context, the European context, 2030, 2040 targets, and as well as on the potential that Romania has in this regard, what would investors need to know about what is coming next for Romania and for the energy sector here in the region? What would be your take on that?
Well, first of all, investors need, well, clarity and predictability. This
Right.
is the
Mantra.
the tired answer that we always provide. But other than that, I know for the fact that Romania is an attractive country for its energy sector, not just for the diversity of its resources, but also for its human capital in the domain. We just need to progress on legislation and regulation and let's say institutional flexibility. But I'm confident that this need has already been acknowledged all around, and that will be able to meet the interest of investors.
Thank you very much. Mr. Răzvan Popescu, I'll turn to you, and I'm trying a bit to bridge our final points with the next panel that looks into Ukraine, that looks more into regional cooperation. As I said before, and you were detailing about the role that Romania can play in the region, and especially when it comes to gas and gas security, energy security, and building resilience and supplying resilience. What do you think should be the role going forward in supporting Ukraine, in supporting neighboring countries in their enlargement ambitions? What would be the role that Romania can play in this regard in their energy transition, at the end of the day, processes?
The energy transition, as we view it right now, and given the fact that Romgaz will hike production so much, this has to come in parallel with a decarbonization policy. Because as Radu has detailed a bit early, the part of CCS, the necessity for oil and gas companies to invest in CCS, to have projects that will capture and store carbon, I think are of the utmost importance. Also, the moment that a country does have its own gas and can cover its own energy security, then it has the possibility and the proneness to help its neighbors and to ensure this energy stability in the area. But first and foremost, we have to do these investments keeping into mind, especially for a gas company, the need for energy and a proper energy mix. That's why Romgaz is also diversifying into investing in green energy. But not only, we are also looking at CCS. We are also trying to work with advisor, because indeed we have the expertise in gas, but carbon, let's say, it's a bit of a different animal in this respect, and it needs a bit more coverage in this respect. But I'm confident, and I have two projects with my colleagues from the EMP department to have this part of CCS and to do some pilot programs that can be done. We are looking also at the Iernut power plant to have a carbon capture in the plant, which is internal and can be done internally. Which this is a very, very important thing given the costs that CCS will bring.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borbély. A similar question to you. Electricity is also obviously very important for the region, and Romania has the right ingredients to be a supplier of electricity and of power generation in the region. What do you see the role that Romania should play for neighboring countries and the region as a whole?
Yes, a lot of challenges on the regional side, but I think that for the moment Romania, the production companies in Romania, they do a very good job to produce what we need internally and assuring the stability of the Romanian electricity system in this way we can contribute and also to export in some countries where we have some, let's say, good markets. We have now exports in Moldova, Ukraine, even in Hungary and other countries. But also Hidroelectrica, we had discussion and analysis from some expanding businesses on the region. But for the moment, we are focusing all our efforts to do our business well done in Romania, and then we will see how we can do more business abroad. For sure, the main important thing for us is to increase our capacity, to invest more in our hydro units, to increase the lifetime of these hydro units, and to deliver enough energy for the Romanian electricity system. And then, if we have enough energy to sell abroad.
Thank you very much. As I certainly say, I will close the panel with you with a similar question, basically. Over the past years, Romania has supported Ukraine, Moldova as well, in facing the challenges that we've seen in the energy transition and in the energy security, let's say, dimension. What would be the role of Romania going forward to support Ukraine's reconstruction, because that's the topic of the next panel, as well as support Moldova in its challenging achievements and objectives? What should Romania look like in a couple of years in that regard?
I think we have some simple answers here. According to our energy strategy, we have full and unconditional support for the Republic of Moldova. And I would say the following: if we are able to meet this competitive pricing, given the smart choices that we will make in the investment in the power generation area, we would be able to become a net exporter or a supplier of security in the region. And the role of Neptune Deep in this context should not be seen as should be seen from this perspective. So. But I would say that we really need to focus on the fact that balance-wise, on a yearly basis, we might say that we are exporters or we are importers, whereas I think that the battle goes on right now on the hourly basis, where I have enough flexibility, where I have enough capacity to support also my neighbors in terms of need. And last remark on this: if this transition is going to happen, if the security of supply in the region needs to happen, then everybody needs to be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all my panelists, and please join me in thanking them and giving a round of applause to the panel. Thank you very much.